guys, Old Man Chris back again. I'll try and make this fairly brief. I had a request from Lawrence Harrison to describe some clamps that I use on the drill press, and some time ago somebody else asked the same, and although I covered them in fairly brief detail about 2 years ago in a sort of gadgets and gizmos video, but to give a bit more detail, I'm just going to run through the components, and in case it helps, gives people an idea for what they might find useful themselves. Okay. I made a pair of these, and this was 1991, I believe. This pair is set up on the table. This is one of those drill presses that's got an X of slots, and they're about a 3/8 thick material. So underneath we have, which may not quite be, let me turn that around. I've got a locking piece here, I'll say more about that in a minute. And then we have an adjustable support button at the back, and then we have the tightening down piece for locking. That basically is it. Alright, so I'll show you the various bits. They work very well for me for almost all jobs. These slots are a little bit limiting compared to some other arrangement, but I can move these around over quite a range. What does happen sometimes is they get in the way of the vise, so you have to be a bit creative. That's if you're using them to clamp the vise, of course, but for an awkward workpiece they work darn well. Very good. Alright, let's switch to the components, and I'll give you some idea of dimensions and everything. I've cleaned the parts of this one up. They have got a bit corroded, and the other one's got some corrosion, but over time it happens. So none of these dimensions is hypercritical. This is just to give you an idea of my way to do it. We start off with a base plate. This is 3 inch by 1 3/4. 3 inch 1 3/4. It's drilled. I think the centres for the drilling are fairly empirical. 2 inch centre. And then there's a bevel on this edge. Now bear in mind, these were made before I had access to a vertical mill. In the old days all I had was a big horizontal mill, and I did these by hand. Roughed off the main material and then draw filed, and that's nominally 20 degrees, not overly important really. And this is quarter plate. Alright, 3 inch 1 3/4 by quarter, and a bit of bevel at the front. Then the top jaw, this is made from, I've got some dimensions on it, it's 4 3/4, which might have just been how it worked out for all I remember. 1 inch wide and 3/8 thick. Right, this is the workpiece, shall we say. Now we've got, obviously got holes in it, which is again nominal 2 inch centres, but what you need to notice is the front here has been worked into a slot, which is, the slot is 3/4 inch total length, and because this has to be able to tip when in use, the back here, now this is where I've got to be careful to try and show you. You might be able to see that has been relieved at an angle. See if it shows. It might. But that permits the jaw to drop, move over that sort of range. Right, now the lower, well, we've got two lots of thread. It's pretty basic. That's 5.5, that's 3.5. And the long one goes into this piece, which is what's used to lock underneath the table. And this piece is made out of 3/4. Sorry, that's made out of 3/4. The length is again not critical. That's 3.5 inch with a 1/4 inch T-bar, 1.5 inch both sides, nominal, and this is put in with a through hole and with some upset on the 1/4 inch so that it makes a tight fit. Now this is actually bored probably down to about 2 inch, but is threaded more or less as deep as could be managed down to probably nearly 2 inch. So this longer piece will go in quite a long way, and the reason for that is it's partly somewhere to keep the thread spare, because you can extend this to hold quite a large workpiece, and this normally has a heavy washer for locking up underneath the table. Then, having given you the sort of overall dimensions on here, which are not hypercritical, like a lot of stuff I've made over the years, it's, you know, what have I got? Well, we'll use that. So putting it together, those holes are threaded, if I didn't mention, which I probably didn't, but they're threaded. So we'll take the long piece of thread, put that in the rear position. Let's just wind that on a bit, and then the large washer, sturdy washer, so a lot of the thread can disappear into this locking handle, and it's sort of there if needed, shall we say. And then the front takes the short thread, which can be kept just flush with the base plate so that you can actually slide it either side of the slot in the table. Otherwise it can go through, doesn't really matter. And then on this longer rear thread we've got the height positioning button, and that it's made out of 3/4, knurled for convenience, and you probably can see there's a slight radius on it, and that's to allow for the tipping of the top jaw. So that will go on all the way down, and we can put the top jaw on. So when that goes on, again, forgetting whether I mentioned I'm doing this in 2 bits, that's also filed, draw filed finish. There's about 5/8 there. It's nominal 15 degrees. Again, up to what anybody wants to do. Now, putting the jaw over the threads, you can now probably see why at the back here that the hole has been filed to allow for tipping, and you can see the support height control button also has that radius on it. Okay, and then finally with a washer, I'll put this little guy on, That also has a radius, okay, because again that's bearing down on a top jaw which may not be horizontal. And the T-bar is actually two separate pieces. Very much doubt, oh, you might just see in the thread there, you might just see the end of one of them. They're quite short, don't have to be very big. Okay. Put that on the front. Just try and spin that down just to show you finally. So then looking at the whole thing, so you've got back support there for the jaw. You wouldn't often want it as big an angle as that, but you often want it just down from horizontal. And then your adjustment clamping handle piece here, again with the radius, and that bears on the jaw. All right, and you saw the other one in position on the drill press, so I think you get the general idea. Anybody who's got a query on it, just let me know. I'm hoping that's just explained the basics of it. Plenty of room for changing various things, but the basic principle of it I've found over the years has worked extremely well, and two of these will hold a piece very, very firm. Alright, so anyway, I say, hope it helps. We'll see you again soon, hopefully. Alright, thanks for watching.